The U.S. should not have to. Answering questions at the NATO forum, NATO chief Mark Rutte says the U.S. is a locked-in and dependable member of the alliance.
There is total commitment by the U.S. president and the U.S. senior leadership to NATO. However, it comes with an expectation. And the expectation is that we will finally deal with this huge pebble in the shoe, this huge irritant, which is that we are not spending enough as Europeans and Canadians. And they want us to equalize with what the U.S. is spending.
Israel is accusing Iran of violating a ceasefire hours after both countries agreed to the truce proposed by Trump. Iran's military denies launching missiles at Israel, according to Iranian state television. In response, Israeli officials have ordered a strike on Iran, though there are no immediate reports of an attack there. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports the last body has been found after the capsizing of a boat on Lake Tahoe.
Divers searching Lake Tahoe have found the body of the last person missing from a boat that capsized last weekend during a sudden and powerful thunderstorm. That brings the death toll to 8. 2 other people on the boat were rescued immediately and taken to hospital. The Coast Guard says swells of more than 8 feet were recorded around the time the 27-foot vessel flipped over Saturday afternoon. It happened near California's D.L. Bliss State Park on the lake's southwest edge. One woman who had rented a pontoon boat for a friend's bachelorette party says it felt like we were in a tsunami. I'm Ben Thomas.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports New York's governor wants to build a nuclear power plant.
Governor Kathy Hochul says nuclear power is the future, which is why she wants a new plant in upstate New York 4 years after Indian Point's closure over environmental concerns.
And this is not your grandparents' nuclear reactor. You're not going to see this in a movie.
Referring to disaster movies and previous plant shutdowns, Hochul says this would be safe, reliable, and clean.
And there's only one commercially viable option that can deliver that much clean, renewable, reliable power. And that's what's been operating in New York for decades. Nuclear energy.
The governor directing the state's power authority to develop a nuclear facility and inviting companies to invest. The state currently has 3 active nuclear plants. Julie Walker, New York.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News. Have a good morning.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms possible late today. Otherwise, partial sunshine develops, a high in the low 90s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. For tonight, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 70. By Wednesday, chance for rain and storms, cloudy, high of 87 degrees. And Thursday, another chance for rain and storms, we'll see a high around 90. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 81.
DQ presents How to Make Your Summer Take Flight. Just head into DQ for our new Superman Cake Batter Cookie Dough Blizzard Treat. Treat your inner hero to an epic mix of sugar cookie dough, sprinkles, and cake batter flavor. Blend it all with legendary DQ soft serve, and it's enough to tempt Superman himself. Fly into DQ for our new Superman Cake Batter Cookie Dough Blizzard Treat before it's gone. And don't miss Superman, only in theaters July 11th. DQ, happy tastes good. Only at participating locations.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Tuesday morning, progressives, and welcome to the June 24th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And, of course, email me at richard@wcpt820.com and catch me on Substack. By the way, catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's where you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, short versions, long versions, all that you want. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And of course, as we always say, make your way over to Heartland Signal for our digital platform. And I want to take just a quick moment to give some shout outs. So many people send me emails and send me text messages, and I don't always get to every one of them in the fastest of times. But I want to give some shout outs to folks who send me ideas and send me thoughts for programming and topics that we can cover, from our man Kurt Herner in Ohio to I refer to as JD, but her first name is Jennifer, Lois, Joan, Dave out on the East Coast, Paulette, Nancy, George, Jill. The list goes on. You guys are phenomenal in your suggestions and your ideas, and you send me clips, you send me articles. You've even reached out, as Sarah Jones said yesterday, some folks have reached out to some of our guests that we've had on. So thank you very much for that. We get so busy going and doing that. I always have to say to myself, just slow your brain down, Chew, and take a moment and thank folks. And I just want to make sure to do that this morning. And if I ever leave anybody out in my thanks and my kudos, sans an Excel spreadsheet of the people that have emailed or reached out to us by phone or by mail, physical mail or whatever, we never forget you. Don't want you to think that we do. I personally will say that for me, and in greater measure for the rest of the folks here at WCPT. We greatly appreciate you. And so that's to be noted. Obviously, with Karen Byrne of True Blue Politics being on with us, and with Kurt Mullet being on with us on Wednesdays and Fridays, we appreciate their contribution. But I just want to stop and say that to you guys that are sort of our regular audience and folks who listen to us and follow us, and we appreciate you. So never let the lack of a specific thank you to you be something that you think we don't think about you, because we do. And I can assure you of that. Your names pop up many times in conversations around the station. So just know that. And with that being said, check this out, progressives.
He can't leave the 2020 election alone, right? He can't leave Joe Biden alone. And he's re-arguing, and what's happening in New York now, in these Trump cases that we spent so much time talking about before the election, is he's relitigating the same things he was litigating then. So in the criminal case, we're back to the argument about presidential immunity. And what the argument is that the conviction is unlawful, not because paying off a porn star is a presidential act. Even they don't go that far. But what they argue is that some of the evidence used to convict Trump on those 34 counts involved his time at the White House and things that went on in the White House in what I consider to be an extremely tangential way.
Mm-hmm. So the reason I wanted to play that for you guys this morning is that remember I said yesterday that this attack on Iran, distraction, and I want everybody to stay focused and pay attention, is because that those cases in New York are really at the crux of what the country missed by choice or by whatever irresponsibility. That should have eliminated him from being. Republicans can elect who they wanted as their candidate, but it should have eliminated him from being elected president. There's no way, and you know what, that we should have a 34-time convicted, twice adjudicated, owing big fee money, susceptible to all kinds of corruption guy in the White House. And I'm doing my best to not relitigate the 2024 election, let alone 2020. Not that it needs to be relitigated, but 2024. because I want everybody to understand something. Where we are right now, that we've got this conversation about a dude that decided to go around Congress, go around the steps that were necessary and prudent to try to, if the real objective and the truth of the matter for all the maggots that are out there and the folks that are center right trying to rationalize and bend themselves into a pretzel about this attack were legitimate, then he should have done it the right way. If it's legitimate and it's right, and it's what we as a country stand behind, then doggone it, do the presidential thing and follow the rules. And even if it's a decorum item, let alone the constitutional requirements and the three branches of government following that guideline, those guidelines, just do it for continuity of the country, so that folks that are like me and like all the rest of us that are in this progressive conversation don't have to blink and go, what the hell is he doing? Because what it does is it leaves everything open to skepticism, and it creates discontent. And it didn't have to. I go back to what I said yesterday. He did not have to do that. But in his mind, he convinced himself that he needed to do it because of the distraction. When in fact, we all know that this is, now that this evidence, more and more conversations are being had about what actual intel was real and what wasn't real, what isn't real. And when we come back from the break, I'll try to give a couple of quick hits of some of the things that are being talked about in terms of current events. But on today's show, our guests include Sarah Garza-Resnick, and of course, our good friend, Michelle Peltier, who will be bringing us a few moments with Michelle. And Anna Mercado will be with us as well. Three great women that are going to be speaking on a couple of very important issues: education, women's rights, and how we navigate and stay connected in this crazy time. So let's take a quick early break so we can keep running at pace, Devin. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Driving it home with Patty Vasquez.
Hold on a second. I'm going to take this on the air. Hey, Steve Lessman, this is Patty Vasquez. We're live on the air. Are you really calling me? Is the sales department calling me live on the air? Hey, Steve. Steve, you're on the air.
Did they make it?
You've done that to me. You could know Art from WCPT.
Why are they calling you?
I have no idea. He just saw me in the hallway. Come on now.
Patty Vasquez. Weeknights 5 to 7 on WCPT 820.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chu.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives. Welcome back to the show and to this Tuesday morning. By the way, if you're going to be out and about, we know that in Chicago right now, upper Midwest, it's hot. So everybody, please be safe and smart and stay hydrated as you go about your day. All right. A couple of quick Choose Views news items. Is the ceasefire real or not? Iran fires missiles at U.S. bases. It's launched missiles at the U.S. base in Qatar as well as toward Iraq and Kuwait, according to officials. Qatar is home, or Qatar, depending on how you enunciate that, is home to the largest U.S. military base in the region. It had shut down its airspace just an hour before the attack. The actions come just days after the American strikes on the Iranian facilities, which are believed to have caused very significant damage, at least on one site. Meanwhile, some corporations are reportedly mulling travel pauses and evacuations from the broader region, which we could tell was going to come, and how's that going to impact our overall economy? Well, safety comes first, but is this ceasefire real or is it not? What steps are actually being taken? The housing market remains in the doldrums, unfortunately. U.S. housing market remains constrained by weak affordability and a buyer-seller imbalance. Existing home sales rose just 0.8% in May to an annualized rate of 4.03 million. While that's better than economists had anticipated, it was the slowest pace of sales for the month of May since 2009. And May is typically a big month. Meanwhile, home prices are still elevated. but the pace of price growth is slowing, according to Redfin, which notes that there are, quote, significantly more sellers than buyers in the market. There's some other factors that are part of that, and that is the cost of homes, the cost of buying a new home. New York is to build a nuclear power plant. New York is planning to build its first new major nuclear plant in more than 15 years. The project should add at least 1 gigawatt of new power generation to the state's abilities, according to Governor Kathy Hochul. Enough power to power about 1 million homes. And because of safety and cost concerns, only 5 new commercial reactors have opened in the United States since 1991. The New York reactor could kick off an era of new investment in nuclear power, according to the New York Times. And last but not least, brands are reviving tariff engineering. This one really caught my eye, and I'm going to stay on top of this over the weeks to come. Tariff engineering, quote, is back in business as a maneuver to avoid paying higher duties. The practice, which is legal in the United States, involves altering items enough to justify reclassifying them under a trade exemption. Converse, for example, adds fuzzy fabric, Devin, to the soles of all its all-star sneakers. So, why? So they can be considered Devin's slippers, not his athletic shoes. Check that out. Fuzzy fabric to sneakers. The practice gets trickier for sectors that are more heavily regulated, like autos and aerospace, one expert tells CNBC, because even minor changes may require extensive validation and approval. But here's the part that is, this is the point, the craziness of this, guys. Why in the hell should companies have to do that in the first place, Devin? They got to doctor up their products. They got to trick up their products to, they got to not trick their ride. What was that? They got to pimp their product to get it through lesser tariff issues. That's crazy. We don't need to be there as a country. But, hey, 78 million people decided they wanted to vote for the crazy chaos agent. So, all right, y'all. Thanks, Dev. Here are some current events that we may get to during the course of this show. Just some headlines. The Iran bombing exposes Trump as a peacemaking fraud. Other breaking news, Trump convenes a Situation Room meeting as Iran claims this attack on the base in Qatar. And to that end, Trump blows a gasket after the media reports he may have failed to destroy Iran's nuclear program. He didn't destroy their nuclear program. And the fact that Medvedev said that, hey, there's still going to be countries that want to provide Iran with nuclear armaments, nuclear warheads, says that in the region, they may have more impact than what Trump is trying to have. And last but not least, Trump had no intel but bombed Iran because it looks good on TV. What would you expect from a reality TV personality? I'm not even going to call him a reality star. We'll get into those a little bit more, but I just wanted to give you guys some quick headlines on what the folks in various forms of written media are saying. All right. We've got 2 clips we're going to hit you with. One of them is from former President Bill Clinton, and then we got another one on a question that comes up often and some thoughts behind people and Trump. So let's hit them first with the Bill Clinton clip, Devin.
Mr. Netanyahu has long wanted to fight Iran because that way he can stay in office forever and ever. He's been there most of the last 20 years. But I think we should be trying to diffuse it. And I hope President Trump will do that. I hope anybody there will do that. We've got to stop. We've got to convince our friends in the Middle East that we'll stand with them and try to protect them. But choosing undeclared wars in which the primary victims are civilians who are not politically involved one way or the other, just want to live decent lives, is not a very good solution. Do I think that we have to try to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon? I do. I tried at that, and we had some success. But we don't have to have all this outright, constant killing of civilians who can't defend themselves, and they just want a chance to live.
The last part of that. They just want a chance to live. And this is why, I said yesterday, I understand that preventing Iran from having the destruction that comes from this type of nuclear armament. I get that. But the way in which we had approached it before, in other words, like I said, in referencing it was working. It was working. What Clinton, let's be honest, Devin, has, to our knowledge, has any country launched a nuclear weapon in your lifetime? Yes or no? That was up to the level of destruction of Fat Man and Little Boy during World War II. Never, right? Not in my lifetime, and I'm older than you. So I looked up, and I couldn't get all the data together, but I can give you the top line. Russia has maybe, I think, about 500 more nuclear weapons than we do. We are the top two dogs in the sandbox in that space. And the numbers, the chart that I was looking at that had the listings of the ranking rather of the different countries and the level or the number is astonishing. And I was surprised at some of the countries that have more weapons of mass destruction than others do. But Iran right now isn't even in the top 10 based on the evidence that the information. I won't say evidence, because that's not the right wording, but based on the information that I looked at. That doesn't mean that we don't want them, that we want them to, given the struggles in the Middle East. But this is truly a situation where Israel is pushing this narrative, and they have been. And they keep pushing the narrative, and they keep pushing the narrative, and they pushed it to the point where we did the thing that no other president has done in my lifetime. Even the more hawkish Bush administration didn't do this. We did our best to keep the peace by having people at the table who knew how and know how to negotiate in this space. And yes, they sure as hell, there's a lot of hawks on the right that wanted to go to war, that wanted to launch various weaponry. But here we are. So all I can say is, for those who are those pundits out there, going, but he took her. Okay, your children should go first. We have to have, if it gets into this sort of regime change conversation, then all the folks, the grown folks in MAGA and the GOP who have children, if we had to reinstitute the draft, then, your children go first. Because we didn't ask for this. We asked for diplomacy, meaning we being the quote-unquote progressive liberal democratic mindset. We want diplomacy. I still want diplomacy, even at this point, if that's still on the table. It may be, it may not be. But I can tell you this, that if Israel escalates again, and if Iran decides to further their retaliation, I don't think that it's going to get walked back by further escalation. It's going to require folks come to the table. And I would rather the Republican Party, I'd rather them bring some of their previous negotiators to the table than the fools that they're part of the Trump administration. Because there's not one of them there that has the skill set, let alone the experience in Washington, in this administration, to navigate through these waters. Noam doesn't. Trump doesn't have it. Vance doesn't have it. They try to be bullies. They try to be bullies. They've not been punched in the face. You can tell. Devin's smiling. That needs to happen. They're bullies. They need to be punched in the face. No, nobody run into Washington, D.C. and walk up to Donald Trump and punch him in the face. I'm not saying you do that, or J.D. Vance. But the point I'm making is those two, Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Kristi Noem, Hegseth, you can go all down the list. Any other folks in the administration, none of them have the capacity, and certainly not the experience at this level of coming to the table to negotiate. So their fallback is to just bomb and attack, because they don't know how to negotiate. They just don't. If they were truly good stewards of that, which is a requirement, I believe, should be a requirement as part of the job, then, what are they going to do? They're going to just try to use the military might, versus having people at the table who probably have some negotiating skill. Some of the old school Republicans who probably have a little bit better skill set there. I could be wrong, but history has shown that negotiation, peace agreements, talking it through have worked out better. And if you don't believe me, in your own personal life, when you've got an issue with someone that you care about, that you love, on a personal or professional or colleague level, it tends to be better to talk it through than it does to punch it out. It tends to turn out better. It tends to be longer lasting because some trust is involved. And America has, from a political standpoint, created some distrust in different parts of the globe. There's no doubting that. You can just look at the history of who is it that we're always fighting with, who are we always having this elbowing with, Devin. It's because of some of the mistrust that we've created. And that's just everybody wants to look at, to say that the Democrats should look at what they did wrong in the election. Okay, well, the country should look at what it's done wrong for decades. But everybody wants to think America's perfect. We don't do a damn thing wrong. We're always getting it right. And that's a bunch of you-know-what. Malarkey, as President Biden would say. And this is one of those moments. It just is. So I'm hoping and praying that there can be some calmer minds and voices in this process. And we just have to cross our fingers and see. Because we know that there are people that are still with Trump for whatever reason that they are. They're going to be with him for... call it a cult, call it a brainwashing, call it just stupidity, call it my four legs of the stool. But we do have a clip that we want to bring to you guys that Devin and I put together about that very subject.
A lot of people still wonder, how can Trump supporters still back him after all of this? The indictments in Jan 6 and immigration, the dumb shit he says, Project 2025, praising dictators, wanting to be a king. How can they still support him? I can tell you. Because it's not about politics. It's about identity. It's their identity, and it's a hell of a drug. See, when you support a politician, you can walk away when they fail you. You could support a movement but still question its tactics when it strays. But when that movement becomes your identity, every criticism feels personal. Every fact that doesn't agree with their view is seen as a threat by that person. And the only response left is denial or projection or rage. These aren't conservatives defending conservative values. These are people defending themselves, their status, their privilege, their grievance, their fear of change. You could do a side-by-side of Trump's failures next to his own voters suffering, and they would still say, yeah, but he gets me. He gets me. Not he helps me. Not everything's better. Not he improves my life. He just hates the people I hate. And that's all it takes. They would rather lose health care than admit they were conned. They would rather watch their hometowns rot than admit Biden didn't do it. They would rather cheer on a man who mocks fallen soldiers, cheats on his wives, lies like it's a reflex, and fakes Bible verses because somehow that's their guy. And here's the wild part. When these people finally let go of the cult, when the Trump mask finally comes off and they're no longer stuck in this identity loop of grievance and owning the libs, they become rational. They start asking questions. They reclaim their actual beliefs, not the ones force-fed to them by Fox or Newsmax or their grandma on Facebook. They realize being anti-woke isn't a political stance. It's the right's branding tool. That Law and Order was never about laws. It's about control. And that the real con was making them think empathy was weakness when it's not weakness. It's human. So it's not surprising they stick with Trump through it all. Because they weren't defending politics, they were defending a story about themselves. A story that said, you're the real American, the forgotten one, the victim in someone else's success. But the second they realize they're not victims and that this country hasn't been taken from them, it's just growing with or without them, that's when they break free. Trump didn't build a coalition. He built a giant mirror. And a lot of people just can't stop staring into it.
They can't put the mirror down. That's so well put, guys. If you'd like that clip, I can get it to you. Just send me an email and I'll get it to you. But that's such a good analysis of the fever. And no matter what is done and how he's doing it, that they can't break away. I love what he says about he gets me. Well, just because somebody gets you doesn't mean that they're the person that should be your president. This is where rational thinking people can go, yeah, he gets me, but what he gets about me maybe isn't the most, special part of my personality. You know what I mean, Devin? He gets me because sometimes I can be a you-know-what hole. But he gets me. That doesn't mean the dude should become your president. But it also says to what the clip says, it speaks to the fact that a lot of people have some crazy stuff going on in their brain and in their system. And they need somebody to, like Trump has played their psychologists and psychiatrists and sociologists all rolled into one. It's okay to be a you-know-what and fill in the blanks with which curse words you want to use. It's okay to be that way. Don't let anybody tell you can't be a jerk. There you go. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be full up with our guests for the next hour and a half. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo Mobile phone and text line, and we'll be right back.
Porsche, the name alone exudes class, sends shivers down the spine. Now imagine yourself behind the wheel. Find your new Porsche at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan Electric for only $1049 a month for 39 months. Visit the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. 8,992.87. Excludes tax, title, license, and that. No security deposit required. Expires 6/30/25.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your home and auto. Then you could put that money towards some of the surprisingly more expensive things in life.
May I help you? I just wanted to request a late checkout, please. Of course. That's $30 per hour for up to 4 hours. Huh. Okay, but if you can offer a late checkout, then that probably means no one is staying in that room. So if it's empty, maybe I can just stay a few extra hours. Oh, aren't you adorable?
Life costs a lot, so bundle and you could save with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms possible late today. Otherwise, partial sunshine develops, a high in the low 90s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. For tonight, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 70. By Wednesday, chance for rain and storms, cloudy, high of 87 degrees. And Thursday, another chance for rain and storms, we'll see a high around 90. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 81.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
It's Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be talking to Tom Moss of Indivisible Chicago, Liz Winstead, co-creator of The Daily Show and founder and chief creative officer at Abortion Access Front, Kate Cox, Lauren Miller, abortion rights activist, I should say, speaking from the Our Voices, Our Stories, Our Future Free and Just Storyteller Summit, 3-day summit. If you guys recall, yesterday we had our two guests on, Caitlin Cash and Veronica Ingham with us. And then David Orr, former Cook County clerk and Chicago alderman and founder of Good Government Illinois, live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. here on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years and 2 months. Tonight on Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, she'll be joined by Illinois State Rep. Cam Buckner, Heidi Stevens, Chicago Tribune columnist, director of external affairs at the TMW Center for Early Learning and Public Health, and fellowship coach at the Op-Ed Project, and WHBY Outside the Box host Ben Kamenos with the Wisconsin Update, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7, WCPT, Heartland Signal, tune in, and YouTube and Facebook as well. Tomorrow on the show, Don Huckelbridge, founder and founding director of Paid Leave for All, Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 will be with us, and Professor Andrew Seligson, the president of Public Agenda, will be joining us. And one other thing to let you guys know about, and it's celebrating Pride Month with the Goodman Theater. They're hosting Pride Night out on June 27th at 6 p.m. before the 7:30 performance of The Color Purple. Gather in the Goodman lobby with the special guest DJ and get discounted tickets and drinks to the show. Tickets are available at goodmantheater.org/pride. So make your way there. Just bringing you guys up to speed on a few of the local items that are happening. So there you go. So listen, guys, as we work to get our guests queued up and ready for the show, that fever that I talked about, that breaking that fever of Trumpism, a lot of what people are I guess challenged with is probably the word that I would use, is it's kind of a personality thing. And I you know, for the amount of time I spent studying and reviewing and reading how people perform, how we act, what our motivations are, et cetera, I will come back to this. It's acceptable, or not acceptable, it's understandable that there are people who in their lives, in the last, let's say, 20, 25, 30 years, have felt like they were left behind in this country. And some of it is valid because they have been left behind. And so I got a couple of comments about that. And this is what the clip reminded me of when I was going through this yesterday. And then, of course, since we played it live. We know that there are people who not only feel, but have actually been left behind. But a lot of it is driven by or been conducted by people who have, with intention, wanted to create or develop or further this sort of us against them conversation. Okay? And we can go back to the you could say infamous quote, but certainly noted quote from Lyndon Johnson. If you know, and I'm paraphrasing, if you get enough people, specifically white Americans, to think that they're one step above the quote unquote Negro, and now that's probably expanded to brown folks, then you're better off than they are, which means you get to treat them differently, and you get to treat them like the elite classes of white Americans were treating them post-enslavement during Jim Crow. So sometimes that gives well, let me not say sometimes. Over time, I've watched that give people a certain amount of privilege, but if they haven't been able to take advantage of that privilege or show it in tangible ways, then they suddenly feel like they were left out. But trust me when I tell you this, those folks were not left out by people of color, black folks and other people of color, by women. There's a certain category, there's a certain demographic in our society that complains about being left out or forgotten, that were the people that they're upset with had nothing to do with it. They were striving to be better and great and do all kinds of wonderful things. And here's how I can personally attest to this. When the guy talked about that clip about the mirror and how Trump's folks are still under the fever, I'll cite you some things that happen oftentimes. People will say when a black person or person of color speaks to discrimination, racism, bias, I'll hear this comment, and it could be stated publicly, it can be stated in a private manner, it can be on television, it can be a variety of different venues. The statement will be, yeah, but, what about, and then list, 3, 5, 10 black people who succeeded in a major way in this country. And they can, you can start with the 3 or 4 names that get thrown out all the time. Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, we had a black president, they'll grab some sports names, etc. As a way to say, how can there be racism and bias and you guys feel like you got left behind when you've got those people? And I know that I could list a ton of other folks. And we could even, layer that into the Latino and Mexican community and others, where you could pull 3 or 4 names and go, look at them. But that doesn't mean that you got left behind if you are white in America, because there are people who are African American or other folks of color succeeded. You didn't get left behind by them. They certainly didn't cause you to get left behind. If we go back to the late 70s and look at what shifted in manufacturing in this country, mid to late 70s, I've said this before and it'll come up again. The companies that were making those decisions weren't led by black men, black women, Latino women or men. And frankly, not many of them were led by white women. They just weren't. Look at the data. For those who want to send me a text or an email and go, oh, yeah, you're playing the reverse racism card. I've gotten those, by the way. That's the conversation that a lot of people don't look at history and want to have. And then they want to blame the Democratic Party for it, when in fact the opposition came from the Republicans when it came to developing, improving our educational systems. Reagan wanted to snatch that away. Wasn't a Democratic president for those 8 years. Bush 1 sure as hell didn't get behind it. He tried to put his toes to the line. Just in education. What about unions? There weren't Democratic presidents in office during those 12 years when unions got decimated. There were 3 terms of Republican presidents, 12 consecutive years of Republican carnage to the gut of the country. That didn't happen under, it sure as hell didn't happen under, somebody that was of color or women. And it didn't happen from the top from Democratic presidents because there were 12 years of Republicans that just cut and cut and cut. And I've used this phrase before. They actually ended up cutting into the muscle of the country. And then we look at the data as it relates to kind of what Doc Rivers said in his clip last week. We've got X number of years of Democratic presidents, and Bill Clinton spoke to this when he spoke at the DNC last summer, where we've got the numbers of millions of jobs created with Democrats in leadership by comparison to Republicans in leadership. And I say in leadership, not just presidents, but in leadership, House, Senate, and state legislatures, led by Republicans that have created the carnage. And then you could go, you could do an even deeper dive and look at this is one of the things that I use as kind of a litmus test when I have this conversation and when I have a clip or a news release or other information. I kind of go, all right, well then let's dig a little bit deeper. We have these tools called the internet and sources of search engines. So then I dig deeper and say, well, who actually was running those companies and have been running certain companies over the last 30, 20 years, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and look at who those company C-suite people were. And then I try to find, and occasionally, I'd say once every other month, dig to see who they have politically gotten behind, who they've either donated to, lended their voice to, campaigned with potentially, or changed the arc of their corporation. And time again, those decisions are being made not by guys that look like me or women that look like Kamala Harris. So when we talk about why folks are still with Trump and why people are still in the fever of Trump, you have to ask the question, well, who is it that's been leading? Who was it that was leading or in leadership roles politically and on a corporate level when it came to companies shipping jobs overseas? When it came to legislation that prevented, that gave away huge tax breaks for businesses, and the failed economic policy of Reagan when it came to trickle down. That wasn't a Democratic president. It wasn't a Democratic administration. So when you look when the guy says people look in the mirror, they're looking in the mirror for someone that's going to validate their own pain. And I recognize that there are people who feel like they've been left behind. But the people that drove the train away from the station weren't the people you should be angry with. You shouldn't be angry with, because listen, during the Biden administration, all he was trying to do is make sure that people had the things that they needed to make their lives better. That's all he was trying to do. And folks cut him off at the knees. And I'm not talking about asking him to step aside. I'm talking about during his time in office, the Republicans kept working to stall and get in the way. I mean, what person in their right mind wants to get rid of a health care plan that's going to make things better? Not perfect. We're going to make things better. Why did it take one vote from? I mean, every person in Congress should have said, yeah, we're going to keep this thing in place. In terms of the Affordable Care Act. Thank God for John McCain's thumbs down. But whether it be Biden or whether it be Obama or whether it be Clinton in these last, 3 Democratic presidents, each one of them worked to build a stronger economy for everybody. Each one of them worked to build a better America as it relates to how we performed on the global stage. Each one of them did. That's database. That's not Richard Chew just saying it. That's factual. So we have to remember that when it comes to the people who feel that they've been left behind. They didn't get left behind by the Democratic Party. Imperfect, yes, but the Democratic leadership and administrations have always tried to build a better America by providing better resources for all of America, not just a select few. And I'm old enough to have seen presidents all the way back to my childhood, starting with, in my more developed time as a teenager, with Carter, with Nixon, Ford, Carter, and the list to current. And the Democratic leadership has done a better job in every step of the way. And without Congress getting in the way of the president and the administration trying to do better for the country, they got a lot done. Let's take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
If you've turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. That's 800-365-6303.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. Of course, this is the Credo mobile phone and text line, that being 773-763-9278. Credo Mobile, a progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet. Visit credomobile.com and listen to WCPT's exclusive live broadcast of the Chicago Pride Parade, sponsored by Credo Mobile, this Sunday, June 29th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Looking forward to being on the float and saying hi to folks in Chicago that'll be able on the parade route. So thanks in advance to those of you who are going to be there and supporting the work that the city of Chicago does and the Pride Parade at large. Shout out to Bob, shout out to 313, shout out to Al for your comments and text this morning. But, I want to go back to what I was saying about the people that are still with Trump and why they're still with Trump. And you guys know that I don't get away from the comments that I've made over the years about the four legs of the stool: racism, sexism, Christian nationalism, and privilege. Those are the things that are big problems in our country. Those are the four legs of the stool that I think, the country just can't get away from. And until those four things are acknowledged, I think on a national level, even in the greatness that the country has in an aspirational way, we're going to continue to wash, rinse, and repeat. And people get offended or frustrated or whatever when someone says a person is being racist or being sexist. Their religion is not for me, or if you call someone privileged or reference their actions as being privileged, they get pretty ticked off. That should tell you that they haven't, in my experience, maybe have to pull back a layer or two and ask themselves, why do I feel that way? Why would I react that way? But I said this earlier when I was talking about the face in the mirror, looking in the mirror, because I think if we layer that over what's happening with this attack, this missile attack, the country has failed itself in looking in the mirror and asking the question, what is it that we as a country have done, may have contributed to cause some of these problems? And again, I make this comparison, and the guy that the clip said, if you layer out the Trump faults in a line, or the Trump missteps in a line with the people who have had not good things happen in their lives since Trump, you'll see that their desire to have things be better has definitely been missed, or the success of their desires being fulfilled has been missed by the Trump, regime, by Trump administration, by Trump in general. And will they take a look in the mirror like the country should as it relates to how we behave internationally? I would say that Republican leadership has not done that. And I would say that Democratic leadership has tried to do that. But more importantly, what we've tried to do, and this is where the Republicans in leadership right now are truly failing the country, is we've tried to keep the temperature down. And when someone says that, you gain peace through strength, that doesn't mean exclusively or even singularly strength is bombing. Strength can be in negotiation. Strength can be in finding ways to find happy mediums so that people don't have their lives put at risk. And that's unfortunately where this has taken us. And as I said earlier, and I know this is where a lot of you guys are, we're going to have to, there's a wait and see component to this. It is a moving story, moving in the sense that it's changing, and we're all going to have to pay attention to it. And unfortunately, the people that are at the helm, so to speak, of this, I don't have any confidence in their ability to do this and to navigate this. And even now, some of the more breaking news is that Trump is saying that both sides violate the ceasefire. See, this is if you didn't need to have this happen in the first place, then you wouldn't have to call for this. And it's just, it shows again where the country, by not looking in the mirror, by not taking the position that it needed to have a more stable, needs to have more stable leadership, wouldn't have the person that we have in the White House and all of his incompetent minions running around. So we got a couple clips tomorrow that we'll play for you guys in terms of how some of the Democratic leaders have gotten after some of the people in the administration. I like playing them because they speak loudly to what people are wanting to be said, and how folks want the folks in the administration to be handled when they come to Congress for the hearings. So we'll have a few of those for you guys tomorrow. But yeah, there you go. Richard's unpacking of will folks look in the mirror? Will folks really be honest with themselves? And I have my fingers crossed, but I don't have. I guess I'm hopeful, but not necessarily optimistic about it. I'm hopeful because I hope that's what happens, but I'm not optimistic that the country is going to be able to pull itself up by its own bootstraps in this space to resolve these issues. We will see what happens there. Devin, do we have the clip available on Trump Hates America? No. Okay. All right. Sorry, that's all right. No problem. It popped into my mind. That was one that I wanted us to look at, but that's okay. Can't always have them. Normally we do, but there you go. So here's a question that I wanted to ask you guys, and it'll be. I'm curious to see what you have to say as I'm looking at some of my notes here. The people who have been, I guess you could say, supporting what took place. Do you know anyone? Is there anyone in your life that you know that's supporting this attack? I'm just curious. If you do, give us a quick call if you're listening, or send me a text if you do. I'm genuinely curious if you know anyone, if there's someone in your universe that says, yeah, we should have done this. It's a good thing. And if you have had a conversation with them in the last couple of days, what their rationale has been, what their reasoning has been, and how you've engaged with that person. I'd be curious to hear what you had to say in that space. And I know that's what I'm just dropping on you guys, but when I'm looking at my notes about the comment, it's when I said earlier, one of the current events is about Trump blowing a gasket after the media reports that he may have failed to destroy Iran's nuclear program. Some of the comments that I get on social media, some of the things that I've posted and reposted, have said, well, you know, Richard, he destroyed all of their nuclear, their entire nuclear program. And, you know, is that true or is that not true? But I'm curious if you have someone in your life that has said, yeah, I'm glad he did it and this is right and here's the reasons why, just to see what if they've not looked in the mirror, if they haven't paid attention to, you know, what's actually happening in this space. So let me know if there is someone out there that you had that engagement with in the last couple of days. I know the other thing that came our way in terms of conversation right now in this attack is the whole idea that there wasn't really intel, true, accurate, realistic, cogent intel. And if that's the case, is this a whole new what was it, the yellow cake of when we were going to go into Iraq? I'm curious. So yeah, is the intel real? Was it done just to look good on TV? I'm certainly curious. And also, if there is anyone that's in your world, let us know, and we'll chat about it. We're going to take an early break because when we come back, our good friend Michelle Peltier will be with us, and we'll be talking about a few items, and I think you guys will be digging. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we will be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. Are you looking to get that new computer so you can do great things like surf the web, find Heartland Signal, and stream WCPT? Let's look at some computer companies that support the Democratic Party. Lenovo donates $56,000 to the Democratic Party in 2024. That's 89% of their donations. While Hewlett-Packard, or HP, donated $383,000 to the Democratic Party, as well 89% of their donations went to Democrats. Apple donated $4,701,347 to the Democratic Party. Microsoft donated $5,397,633 to Democrats in 2024, while Sony donated $1,268,000 to the Democratic Party in 2024. That was 95% of their donations, everybody. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves with Active Liver from New Nordic. Find in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, Amazon, or NewNordicUSA.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. President Trump says Israel and Iran violated ceasefire terms. Both countries had agreed to a truce proposed by Trump, which included an early Tuesday deadline. Speaking to reporters at the White House before leaving for the NATO summit, Trump says,
as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel.
Israel accused Iran of launching missiles into its airspace and vowed to retaliate. Iran's military denied firing on Israel after the ceasefire went into effect. This is according to state media. But explosions boomed and sirens sounded across northern Israel mid-morning. An Israeli military official said 2 Iranian missiles were intercepted. And AP's Charles de Ledesma reports on this week's NATO summit in the Netherlands.
NATO leaders are gathering for the start of a historic 2-day summit that could unite the world's biggest security organization around a new defense spending pledge. Germany's finance minister has vowed to lift the country's defense spending to 3.5% of gross national product, and Secretary General Mark Rutte urges swift progress.
My message to my European colleagues is stop worrying so much.
start to make sure that you get investment plans done.
I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to restart deportations of migrants to countries other than their homelands.
The nation's highest court voted to lift an order requiring migrants to get a chance to challenge their deportations. All 3 liberal justices dissented. The Supreme Court's action came after a Boston judge found the administration had violated his order by sending 8 people to South Sudan in May. The migrants had been convicted of serious crimes in the U.S., and immigration officials said they were unable to return them quickly to their home countries. Authorities instead landed the plane at a U.S. naval base in Djibouti. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
This is AP News. Much of the U.S. is sweltering under a heat dome.
Like walking through a swamp kind of feeling.
Vak Kobiashvili describing how he felt at Delaware's Rehoboth Beach Monday. David Roth at the National Weather Service says a heat dome could produce triple-digit temperatures this week in places that haven't seen them in more than a decade.
Could be all-time for June, not just daily records.
Roth says the record temps will relent.
But still, it's going to take a while for temperatures to get back to average. It could take a week.
And if you're a city dweller,
urban centers are more disproportionately impacted because of all the buildup, because of the bricks and the asphalt and the pavement.
And Roth says the weather patterns are flashing a bit of a warning sign.
Each year it seems to be getting hotter. The water temperatures off the coast are getting hotter. Hurricane seasons seem to be getting longer. And it's not just because of increased detection. There seems to be a real signal.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms possible late today. Otherwise, partial sunshine develops, a high in the low 90s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. For tonight, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 70. By Wednesday, chance for rain and storms, cloudy, high of 87 degrees. And Thursday, another chance for rain and storms, we'll see a high around 90. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 82.
Join Doctors Manish Jain and Khalil Saeed for a free Lunch and Learn hosted by Flourish Research, MedEvidence, and Weiss Memorial Hospital. Explore the connection between type 2 diabetes and chronic kidney disease, how patients can improve outcomes, and how research is shaping tomorrow's treatments. This free event takes place Wednesday, July 2nd at Weiss Memorial Hospital, 4646 North Marine Drive in Chicago. Lunch will be provided, but space is limited. RSVP today at 773-275-3500. Extension 113.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, welcome back, progressives, to Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is the Credo mobile phone and text line. There you go. Guys, make sure that you stay tuned for our WCPT progressive lineup, which includes the Stephanie Miller Show, my radio sister on the West Coast, Tom Hartman Show, Professor of Everything Progressive, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, and definitely Patty Vasquez, my bookend that's driving you home. Remember to make sure you stay tuned in to our wonderful WCPT progressive lineup. So, now that we're in the 7 o'clock hour, I think that it'd be more than appropriate to introduce and welcome our good friend to the show, one of the co-hosts and voices of the family meeting, and my, someone that sits in for me every now and again when I take a little bit of a break, and that would be our friend Michelle Peltier. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Richard.
How are you?
I'm good today.
You're good.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm out here telling people that they need to be mindful of what they're mindful of. So I guess I can't be bad if that's where I am today. So
you do it every day, honey. You do it every day.
So you have, this morning you heard me talk about one of the reasons, or one of the things, not so much reasons, about people who are still caught in the fever, and why folks, you may have heard the clip, why folks are not, quote unquote, leaving Trump, given all that's happened since he took office and all that they knew about prior to. And I know we're going to talk about one or two other things, but I just wanted to get your take on that. And I don't know if you heard the clip or not, but one of the things that the gentleman said is that, people, they look in the mirror and they see someone that, quote, gets them. And give me your thoughts in that space. People that are sticking with him because he gets them, but is he really doing anything for the people that think that he gets them?
Well, come on, Richard. We know the answer to that.
No, we don't.
I mean, no, they don't. I mean, no, he's not. He's not giving them anything. I think a lot of it is ego. But since we talked yesterday and many days before that, I've been thinking about what I was going to say today because, having a forum like this, like you do, where you reach people and people listen to you, care about what you say, and then you've given me an opportunity to say crazy stuff that I think might be helpful. And so I am no longer focusing on any of that for my own personal sanity. And I'll tell you what I mean. I don't care how those people feel. I don't care if their feelings are hurt. I don't care if they feel lost and rejected because Trump hasn't done what they thought that he was supposed to do for them. I am concentrating on how we move forward. And I've been thinking about that because, you and I talked yesterday. And I told you I was angry and I was sad and I was mad and I'm all of these things, but I want to get out of my head about it, right? Mm-hmm. So I started to think, what else can I do? What can I do? And so I thought, if you think about all the work that those folks put into 2025, Project 2025, mm-hmm. we know what that looks like, right? So we know their plan, we know what they're doing, and that's what they're doing, and so that's happening. What can we do? We can counteract some of those things that are going to affect other people. Like, for instance, I was thinking about school lunches. A lot of schools are going to lose their lunch programs for their kids. So what can I do? Maybe I can sponsor a child to make sure that a child never goes hungry during school. Go visit an assisted living community. There are things that we can do that are proactive. And I'm emotional because I'm so angry that we're here, right? I'm so freaking angry that we're here because this is our fault. Not our as in you and me, but we voted for this, so we've got to figure out a way to navigate ourselves in the midst of it, because there's a lot of things that we can't change, but there are a lot of things that we can do to counteract what's happening to our community members. I mean, it's a mess, and now there's war, but there's still people hungry, there's still people unhoused, and there's still things that we can do to help each other during this time and continue to protest. But we should still write letters. We should still make calls. We should still visit state houses if we can. But we cannot. I just don't want us to focus on all this negativity because there's something we can do about it. Things will change, but it's going to take some time, but there are things that we can do. I'm tired of focusing on the madness. I'm just tired of it. And because I think if we stay in this mud with them, then all of us will be there. So we have to rise above it and do something different.
And so you guys understand the passion at which Michelle speaks to this is extremely important that everyone embraces, because when we've talked about how we go forward, one of the things that I've tried to illuminate, and I don't think I've tried, I think I've done it, and it's just a question of doing more of it and continuing to do it and reminding everybody, is not being stuck in your silo. I use that phrase a lot, and even folks that have come on as guests have said it. We have to, there's two things that popped into my mind when Michelle was sharing her thoughts. The first one is, the distraction of all the craziness is intentional. In other words, the bombing is, as I said earlier in yesterday's show and said today at the beginning of the show, it is yet another distraction from the things that are actually harming people. So pull the curtain back and we see that they're still pushing to get this bill through. Pull the curtain back, and so it's a crazy double-edged sword that we have to, in one way, acknowledge what is happening, but at the same time acknowledge why it's happening. Why is there a distraction of bombing these so-called sites in Iran? To distract from the things that are hurting people here in the country, in our country, and the list goes on. So that's one part of this, of what Michelle is saying. But the other side of that is what we then focus on for improvement, for betterment, for not being stuck in our silos. And doggone it, one of the number one things, one of the top things to focus on is somebody other than yourself.
Yep.
And when you can find a way to do that and look at someone that is struggling, it can inspire you to say, my life is actually better than I sometimes give it credit for. And now I'll cite a couple of examples of why we have to stay in this mindset. I was driving home yesterday, and traffic got backed up a little bit at an intersection, and I was a little frustrated. I couldn't understand why. I was 3 or 4 cars back. I couldn't see why. When I got closer to the intersection, as working my way through, I saw a person who was struggling walking. They had a walker, and there weren't people letting them get through, so this woman had to navigate on her own. And it really struck me as, we sometimes, if we stop and look at some of the great things that are happening in our lives, and every day, one of the greatest things that happens is we wake up and we're able to put our feet, and we sometimes will miss that. We get to go, many of us get to go to bed at night without any worries about our health, not too many significant worries about our financial situations, and the list goes on. But I was sharing this with Michelle, and that takes sometimes us looking outside of ourselves, and particularly in a moment like this, and saying, what is it that I can be doing to help someone that is in a situation that might be worse or crazier than mine? And it may be hard to do that or get ourselves to think that way, because we are being hit with so much garbage right now. But part of the way to do this, and I know that I say this a lot, and Michelle is saying it again this morning, is that we have to look outside of ourselves and look for things to do with other folks to keep our community strong. That way, we don't get pulled apart, because that is also part of why there's so much distraction coming at us. It's to pull us apart. Michelle, your thoughts?
And I think that there's also an opportunity here, Richard. I feel in my lifetime, I feel like there's more willingness to learn and become aware. I'm having conversations with people of all races and cultures about our history, right? So another thing that we can do is to continue to have those conversations. I know Richard Eric gives us a bad time about, coming across conversations that he never has, but I think that's the way to change the world, right? We have to be open and willing to have challenging conversations with each other. I also encourage everybody to continue to learn, right? There are white people here that are just learning about some of our history that we've known for a long time. Learning our history is really important. Currently, right now, I'm reading Medgar and Murley. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, those books like that, books like King, those books, they're hard for me as a Black person. I can't imagine a white person reading it, but it's so helpful though, because you can lay across what happened during those times to now, and almost some of the same things are occurring. But the difference is now we have social media. Now I feel like people want to learn more, all people, not just Black people trying to teach other people. I think that'll help us go a long way to not come back here. Because listen, if we don't learn our lesson this time, Richard, we're going to be right back here.
And
the reason we keep coming back here because we're not learning.
And we may not have the opportunity to come to I don't want to say come back here. We may not have the opportunity to go forward if we don't take control right now. We don't take charge, and that's why as much it's of a balancing act as it is, we have to be mindful of. We need to be willing, I should say, maybe not so much mindful. We have to be willing to slow ourselves down to figure out what can we learn right now, and then how is that lesson going to be sort of our firewall behind us that says we're not going back there again. And to some extent, I think that the message from Vice President Harris was partly about that. We can't go back, because going back in any shape, form, or fashion creates nothing but turmoil. But to your point, in terms of a positive going forward message, look at where we are right now and how we've gotten here and what we built that is great. And then how do we make that a broader greatness for all of our country? And it's somewhat aspirational, but I think it has to be, and it has to be a part of how we bring people of all communities to the table and say, if we don't fight this together, and that's why the protests were so strong and impactful. That was people from so many different communities coming out to say that we are going to have our voices heard. And I think that that's another thing that created some of this need to wag the dog. Is that people said we're going to be heard, and I'm hoping and praying that grows and just continues to get larger and larger and larger and more frequent and more frequent and more frequent. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I was going to say something, but it's politically incorrect to say that now. So I won't say it. It's not over until it's over, and I have hope, because the reality is there are more of us than there are of them. And once we recognize that and put our heads together like we're doing now, I mean, it's happening, but I don't want it to stop. Right? I think there's continued education for all of us until we aren't here anymore. We can't rest on any laurels anymore. If things get better, we can't take a sigh of relief and say, okay, it's better now. We have to always kind of be in this mode so that we can have peace and prosperity for everybody moving forward after this mess is over, because it's going to end. But how it looks like depends on what we do now.
That's such a powerful way of and I hold on to that because I want to just give a quick shout out. One of our listeners has said, please let Michelle know that we're right here with her, and referencing that, you know, churches, black churches particularly, are hosting Freedom School, focused on teaching about the contributions of black folks before and after the Middle Passage. So, that's a really powerful message, and certainly something in line with what you're talking about in terms of where we are right now is crazy, and it's illuminated with a lot of what's the word I want to use? Uncertainty. People don't know. And where you can oftentimes get certainty is in community and in collective energy. And so part of what I want you guys to take away from what we're talking about, what Michelle and I are talking about, is once again, find those elements, find those connections, find those groups that are doing work, that are benefiting people's lives. Get involved with them in some way. And it doesn't necessarily or exclusively have to be through the church, but if that's one of the directions that you go to find it, then maybe that's a starting point. But there are those who the church is not their beat. Find other organizations, and that's why I, really made it my point and purpose to have folks on that are local organizers, that are regional organizers that are doing something that's taking an issue and expanding on it by getting more people involved. And I know Michelle is saying the same thing. If we do that now, we keep planting those seeds now, we keep giving people a reason to be inspired and aspirational, then when we get this fever to break, we will be we'll be able, I should say, to be in a better situation. But it takes us right now being disciplined and saying, to your point earlier, Michelle, I'm not going to let these fools drag my energy and take me away from what I believe is my opportunity to be positive and to be strong.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And, we just have to stay hopeful. I haven't even watched the news since November 6th, but, you still get things, you still get them. And I want to stay current and I want to know what's going on. But I just suggest to people that we just keep our eyes on the prize. And what's the prize? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? That's right. what it's all about, right? So let's not just, because I do have a tendency to get lost in the muck. But you're right about the silos too. I was actually saying that our society is moving towards a silo existence with people not even wanting to meet personally. We're on our phones all the time. We're, doing everything but looking in each other's eyes and touching somebody. And so that makes the divide easier, because when you aren't connected to somebody personally and physically, you can do bad things because you don't care about them really.
Yeah.
Because we're not connecting with each other. So, I don't feel hopeless. I feel hopeful. I just believe that we need to read more, do more, and just stay on this course and pray.
And you know what, to that end, Michelle, a lot of people, as much as, through this show, I talk about the things that are happening, that are going on every day, and how we can be, how we have to be aware. We see this. It's a weird double-edged sword. We have to know what's going on. We can't bury our heads in the sand. Even on the most strident political situation that's happening, bombing another country, we have to unfortunately be aware of that, because it has consequences that can be detrimental and life-altering for people. And so we have to be aware of that. And we know that there's a lot of things that are being thrown at us that are distractions. We have to unfortunately be aware of that. But, and maybe but's not the right word, and might be a better word. And at the same time, with that awareness, I believe there has to be a certain amount of personal awareness that we will see our way through this. And the seeing our way through this, and the reason that I try to take a positive approach to this as best possible, and the reason I end the show with take a deep breath and make your life count, is because that's my sort of, that's my call to say we still have to take action. We still have to be in this fight. We cannot back away from it as much as they want to, in a dictatorial way, get us to think that we don't have any strength in this or any ability to fight in this moment, when we really, really do. And so that's my hope and goal every single day. And when I say bringing you the best that I got, it's every day bringing something that's going to allow people to feel, because I know that folks that listen, that follow the various shows across the country, there's a feeling of disconnect. And when you listen to people that call in here or any of the other shows on Sirius, on any platform, there's a part of them that's calling out, literally reaching out to be connected, to do what you just said in terms of that touch, that eye on someone, that put the phone down, let's have a conversation, rather than just be stuck in our in our moment by ourselves. And I know you feel it too.
I do. And I just want people to remember, we're not alone, right? Again, there are more of us than them. We want this world to be a better place for everybody, and good's going to win. Unfortunately, we've got to go through this bump, but hopefully everybody will have learned their lesson, because the reason why I think that most of us are extra angry is because we know we didn't have to be here. People stayed home, and more people voted for that thing over there. And so here we are. So we know that this is something that could have been prevented, but I don't want us to focus on that anymore. The shoulda, woulda, couldas, we can't do anything about that anymore.
Nope.
This is what we are. What can we do right now in this moment and moving forward to help make the world a better place? And that's just continue to protest, write, as I said, read. I'm telling you, read, just educate yourself on other people's history, because we keep repeating the same. There's a reason why people of color are being attacked and transgendered people are being attacked. They've made us the other, always do. It's how they win. But if we all band together, this will get better, And in 2028, hopefully everything will be different. I hope and pray.
Well, we have to remain hopeful. I know that a lot of people that listen might say, yeah, but this we get that, but we can't focus on that. And,
right.
and that's why I said, and I wanted to give some room for landing on this. I identify the things that are going on every day, and we talk about them because we know that they have to be addressed so that folks are not out, so that people are not without an understanding of what's happening. Yeah. At the same time, and this is the challenge of the double edge of the sword, is that we have to also then go, okay, so now what am I going to do about it? How can I be in the fight, and how can I be in the mix? I just got a text from someone that said Richard is doing conjunction junction.
What's your function?
What's your function? And yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, because what our function should be right now is hooking up with each other, and that rather than phrases and clauses, but hooking up with each other and connecting with each other and making sure that as we stay connected and we fight. See, here's the thing. We fight hard to stay connected. We don't fight hard to be apart.
Right.
We fight hard to stay connected. And we could take any issue that's out there right now that we're dealing with, whether it be what's happening with this bill, whether it be what's happening with this attack on Iran, and the list goes on. We fight to stay connected. We fight to stay, junctioned together, to use conjunction junction. But we do. That's the beauty of it, because the feeling, and those who attended any of the rallies and will tell you that feeling of being there, wherever they were in a rally, was just so empowering. People walked away feeling like, yeah, when can I do it again? What's the next one? That's the energy that we want to be able to take and run with, I believe. And as we do that, then we know that they're not accomplishing their goal, which is to separate us and to drive us apart and to have us fighting with each other, which I refuse to do. I refuse to let that be a part of where I am. It doesn't mean that you don't call out the BS in the moment. Part of the fight, this is the thing you got to understand. This is, again, the challenge of the double-edged sword. You got to call out the BS real time.
Yes. Because
if you don't, then unfortunately we're very subtly complicit to it.
Yes.
But the other side of that sword is the empowerment that you get by calling it out real time. Because then you can check the box and say, when they brought me that garbage, I said something about it right then, and now I can be back on my path of being aspirational and inspiring to other people. But you do have to, that's the challenge. It's a real challenge, but it's also an opportunity, and it should inspire you. And I think that's what a lot of what came out of the protests is people were calling the BS real time in mass.
Yeah. And I don't think that you should be afraid to have conversations with people who are different than you. I'm not going to tell the story, but I'll use our Karen, as an example. She called me to ask me about a question about a black question, if you will. She called to ask me. And you know what? I was so happy that, one, that she thought of me to make the call. 2, that she wasn't afraid to ask the question. And 3, that we had a great conversation about this thing that was troubling her. Mm-hmm. And when I say, and I say it all the time, changing the world one conversation at a time, I mean that. It's conversation. We can't be afraid to talk to each other. We're not going to have any kind of understanding about each other until we talk about it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I am. I'm always going to say we need to get to the crux of what's going on with this country as a whole in order for us to move forward collectively so that this never happens again.
Isn't it interesting, Michelle? I mean, I love how you said that, and kudos and shout out to both you and Karen for having the trust in one another to be able to have a tough conversation, because both of you got better from it, and the people in your universes got better because of the conversation the two of you had. That might be considered a kind of an everyday person's form of diplomacy, which
maybe
which we don't have at the table right now. But we also recognize that we are empowered to have those moments of diplomacy with ourselves, meaning the people that are in our lives. And I think that we have such opportunity there, and keeping that hope alive is really powerful. And again, they don't want us to talk. They don't want us to connect. They want us to be fighting with each other rather than fighting against them. And this is that's one of those moments where you and Karen were able to put that kind of energy together. So, man, Richard and Michelle stepping it up this morning, trying, and guys, this comes from, to share this before we wrap up. Michelle said, I just want to talk about where people, I believe, are and how they might be feeling a certain amount of separation from the masses and connections to others. So she said, Richard, can we talk about that tomorrow morning? And I said, absolutely. So here we are, guys, 30 minutes later, and we've talked about it. So hopefully you guys got some benefit from it. Michelle, thanks, as always, for hanging with me for a minute and talking about it.
Richard, I thank you for allowing me the opportunity. It's such a privilege, but more than anything, thank you for being in this fight and on the air 5 days a week. You came at a time when it was really, really needed. So I know that you have some of the best listeners, and you know I'm telling the truth because I listen to WCPT all day long. And I just want to thank you for just being here and just being up for the challenge. You have risen to the occasion, and you do it every single day. So thanks, you, Michelle. My friend.
Appreciate you. All right, be well today. Stay out of this heat unless you want to get out and get some heat.
Yeah, I'm going out right now. You know I like it nasty, nasty hot.
Michelle Peltier, our good friend and co-host from the Family Meeting. Thanks for being with us this morning. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too, Richard. Bye-bye.
Right, bye-bye. We'll take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. And when we come back, we'll have another great woman, great voice, going to be talking to us about how we heal our educational system and many other places. 773-763-9278. Choose Views. We'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
I hear a lot of people saying that they hate Illinois. They hate Cook County. They literally, you can just see the passion and the anger when they talk about that. I can't wait to move away. And everybody talks about getting out of the state, which, and I'll be honest with you, I love it here. But yet our house is still a seller's market. There's still more people that want to move in than are moving out. I mean, if so many people are leaving our state, then wouldn't the buyers have more power?
A lot of it has to do with how people identify. People's identity, the things they most cherish. And if you identify as someone who is conservative, you will look at some of the legislation that's been passed, pro-LGBTQ, pro-DEI, whatever other buzzwords that people on the right side of the political spectrum like to point at that are, to them, that are negative values that our government and the majority of our people find enough value in it to protect it, abortion rights, whatever it is.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Well, June is Pride Month, and all of us who believe in freedom and equality are speaking out for LGBTQ plus rights. But did you know there's a way to raise your voice for equality every month? In fact, every day. It's your phone if you use Credo Mobile. Credo Mobile has donated over $15 million to nonprofits working for equal rights, groups like National LGBTQ Task Force, Transgender Law Center, and the ACLU. And they'll continue to do so because they don't abandon their values when the political wind shifts. They stand for LGBTQ plus people during Pride Month and every month. If you're ready to switch, it's so easy to do. Here's how you make a difference. Go to credomobile.com. WCPT listeners can get 25% off your service for 2 years if you use the code WCPT25. Learn more at credomobile.com. That's credomobile.com. The best way to give back is to go to credomobile.com. That's credomobile.com. Don't forget, type in your code WCPT25.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms possible late today. Otherwise, partial sunshine develops, a high in the low 90s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. For tonight, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 70. By Wednesday, chance for rain and storms, cloudy, high of 87 degrees. And Thursday, another chance for rain and storms, we'll see a high around 90. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 82.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to the show, and thank you all for being with us. I meant what I said earlier in the show about shout-outs to people who send us text messages, that call, that send me emails, and send us snail mail. We appreciate you, and I want everybody to know that we definitely appreciate you anywhere in the country that you are, that you listen or follow us. This is a team effort, and you guys are part of the team. And I haven't said this in a while, but you know, all I'm trying to do is use this 84-inch wingspan to include as many people as possible, so that we do exactly what Michelle said, and that's fight back, and that we let them know we're here, make some noise, and as the late John Lewis would say, get into some good trouble. And to that end, I've been speaking about the strong women that I am blessed to have in my life, both personally and professionally, and certainly as part of what we do here on the show. And with us this morning is someone who has got the world on her shoulders when it comes to making sure that education, making sure that race, culture, community are at the top of the list in everything that she does every single day. And with us this morning is National Lead Organizer for Race Forward's Honest Education, Action, and Leadership, also known as HEAL. And that would be Anna Mercado. Good morning, Anna, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Glad to have you with us. I hope I put a little bit of a smile on your face this morning as we get started.
Oof, I really do feel like I got the world on my shoulders at the moment. So, thank you for thinking that. Yes, you do, and more power to you for taking on the work and all that you're doing as a national lead organizer for HEAL. If you could, Anna, take a moment and let our audience know more about HEAL, and certainly take a moment and talk a little bit about you and the work that you're doing, and then we'll get into some more specific questions. Yeah. So I spent the last 20 years of my life working in the trenches in the Chicago public school system with parents and students and teachers, and really fighting for better education for kids, just like really committed to seeing better outcomes. And then I made this shift to working at the national level because I was seeing what was the writing on the wall for public education. And it looks like we are pretty far down the road into this plan to dismantle public education. It's very alarming, and all of the work over all of those years is really at stake. We're really seeing that public education is under attack in a big way, and it's been accelerated by this current administration. And HEAL is here to stop it. We're building a movement of students and parents and family members, educators, school board members, and just concerned citizens. And that's in school districts across the United States. And we're fighting for honest, equitable, fully funded public education. And really we're doing that from the lens of that this is a foundation for any kind of real democracy in this country, like a multiracial democracy that is for all of us. So over the past year and a half, we've been building out this Public School Strong campaign, and that is really designed so that an individual that has never gotten involved before has all the tools that they need to be able to organize in their school district, pull together a team. You just need 3 people and you're a team. And you get started and you coordinate your efforts at your local school district. Like, people really underestimate the power of starting locally in, the most local level of government, which is your school board. And you do it in a way where it's coordinated so that you can have national impact. And so that's what we're up to with this campaign. And you can look us up at publicschoolstrong.org, but we're going to get into a little bit of what we're looking at right now at the moment, because it's, the federal budget bill is terrible in so many ways, but it has a particular impact on public education that most people don't know about, which is why I'm so glad to be out here getting to talk to all the folks listening out here. One of the things, Anna, and thank you for that, and thank you for your leadership. One of the things that prior to you coming on, Michelle Peltier, who's a good friend of the show, she co-hosts another show on the station, and we talked about the importance of getting involved. And I've been saying this for weeks, months, a long time, about getting involved in something right down the street, right in your neighborhood. Yes. I mean, in Chicago, because of our ward system, it's easy as what to get involved. Just go tap on the door of your ward, your city council person, and say, hey, listen, I need to get involved in something. I'm tired of sitting around fighting and arguing with myself. I need to get out here and fight for something for somebody else. And one of the things that you talk about when it comes to education, and why I think this is such a foundational piece, is you don't even have, when it comes to education, if you don't have kids, it's still okay to get involved in the fight for better education, because, as you put it, that strengthens our society because it creates a better foundation of better educated people. And in the public school system, that's critically important. Talk about that for a minute. Oh, yes. This has been a key piece of what we're doing, is that public education is ours collectively. You have a stake in this, no matter if you have kids, what age you are. Imagine you are having to make collective decisions. Your fellow voters are not receiving a basic education about the world. That is very scary, right? Yeah. You want your fellow citizens to have a basic grasp of how the world works, and also to be able to have some baseline of experience of having to work alongside people of different beliefs. So public schools have been a place where people get to, get some basic foundational skills for working with each other. Like you've got folks that are outside of your family and religion, and you're able to do the basics of it. Like, it's one of the things about desegregating schools that was so upsetting to the white supremacists was that, once you actually start working alongside each other, you humanize each other. Well, and to that end, at the same time, people realize that as you humanize people that have been dehumanized, whether directly or indirectly, in this conversation, you also recognize that they're just as good as you are, or in some cases they may be better in the area than you are, and you're better in this area than they are. And that when you put that together, that's called filling each other's void, and that makes a stronger society. And so oftentimes, we have people who just feel like the others are bad and we are good, and as a result, we don't want to deal with the others, and we need to continue to make them the enemy. And it's in so many areas of our lifestyle. But
you've made a point of saying yes, like Michelle, who was just on a moment ago, said, yes, those are realities. And if we organize, if we pull together, if we work on letting people know that we have more in common than we have not in common, then we are better off. And the baseline for this in our society is education, because education is also awareness. It's also exposure. It's also a way to have some common thinking that allows us to move forward. Doesn't mean that we think in lockstep, but we find out what we have in common first, and then we build from there. I used the word earlier today talking about what's happening with the situation in Iran. Diplomacy is needed right now, and diplomacy only comes from being educated about who your quote opposition is, or who you may not necessarily be in opposition with, but you want to find out how you're connected and what you can do to work better. Education and awareness allows us to have more open minds to be able to do that. So I appreciate how you've taken HEAL to this level to be able to tie into the importance of this conversation around education. Let me ask you this question, and we're talking with Anna McCarto, who is the national lead organizer for Race Forward's Honest program, HEAL, Education Against Leadership. HEAL. Just so you guys know, that's the acronym, HEAL. But let me ask you this question. Right now, when we talk about the national focus on with the Department of Education on a federal level and trying to tear that down and take it apart, what is it that, and I asked this question of a guest that we had on a couple of weeks ago that was also speaking in the space of education. If you had an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with Linda McMahon, who is the head of the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., what would that conversation look like? Or maybe better put, what question would you ask her? What would be your thing to ask her if you had a conversation with her?
Oof. You know what? I've thought very little about Linda McMahon in this time. There's something here where she's coming in with no education experience, is really brought in there to dismantle the department. All of our focus in the past few months has been on Congress, because all of the wild, incompetent stuff coming from the White House seems to be distracting from the fact that they are actually putting in legislation that is going to be much harder than any executive order to undo. Yeah. And it seems to be it's a whole distraction for me to look at, the wild incompetence.
You would want to be focused more, and I agree with you. You want to be focused more.
I probably wouldn't talk to her. I'm making a beeline. In fact, last week I was in D.C. chasing after senators in the hallway. We had students and parents and educators with us, these little teams, and we were just trying to get their ear wherever. If they wouldn't meet with us, we'll catch them outside the hearing and be right out there with our questions to them. And the things we were asking them were, look, do you know that you have this part of the bill, because we know they haven't read it. It's a huge budget bill. It's almost 1,000 pages. They don't know what's in there. Yeah. And basically, they put in there that they're going to create this federal voucher program that is going to drain billions of dollars from public education. And it's going to do it in a way that lines the pockets of billionaires. So it's a total tax scam. And it's going to lead to drastic cuts and closures in a lot of school districts where they're already operating on really slim margins. They can't really afford to have more cuts. So this is the big thing that I'm trying to alert everyone to, even the senators that are supposed to know what they're voting for.
Yeah, and to that end, I mean, and to come back to something that you said a moment ago about contacting senators and making sure that they are aware that we're aware. I mean, $200 billion in SNAP cuts. There's going to be, I guess, the potential of $800 million in cuts to Medicaid. Which
no, it's $800 billion.
$800 billion
with a B.
With a B, in cuts to Medicaid, which is one of the largest. I think it's the third or fourth largest funding source for public schools. And so that in and of itself is going to drive so much chaos through a system that's already struggling. So your point, and the thing that I wanted to come back to, is what you were saying earlier about what can people do, what should people be doing, and I think that some of this comes down to who you contact, who you reach out to, who you yell at, if you will, and let's talk about the importance of what people can be doing today in terms of spreading the word, and what people can be doing as they go forward in terms of contacting not just their local leaders but their federal leaders. What are some of the actions that you want to see people taking?
Well, the first thing, laser focus on your senators right now. In the Senate, I'm hearing that they may try to vote on the big ugly bill as early as Thursday. And so this is an action to take today. And we've made it as easy as possible because we know that it's, people are like, I don't want to make a phone call. I can't, what do I say? I can't be debating with someone over the phone. It's not like that at all. Basically, we have a link that you can click on. We put it up on our Facebook and our Instagram so that you look up Public School Strong on Facebook or Instagram, and you'll catch us there. It's the very first post, and we have a link basically where it's easy, 2 clicks. So you're putting your address so we know which senators you've got to contact. And then from there, it either emails them, you can tweet at them. We have like a template so that you don't have to craft something, but you can definitely add your own personal thing. You can say, hey, I'm in a rural area. This is really important to me. Or you can say, I'm a parent. And you tweet at them. That helps to actually make your advocacy a little bit more public, so others see what you're sending to them. It makes it a little bit more public pressure. Mm-hmm. But the phone calls, the phone calls are a way for you to really add to the numbers. They count in their Senate offices how many calls they get about different topics, and it's part of their stats that they review every day.
Got it.
So if you call, and it's an intern that picks up. You tell them the message that we have right there for you. So really, we made it as easy as possible.
So let's talk about that as we come to a close here. Let me come back to something because I want to make sure that people know how and where to go. First of all, the site that they should be going to, Anna, is what? And what, once they get there, should they be doing?
Perfect. So you're going to want to do this through your Facebook or Instagram. So basically, you're going to search for Public School Strong.
Okay.
That's the name of our campaign. Public School Strong. And then our page pops up, it's the latest post on there. It tells you here's how to contact your senators. So you click on the link, you put in your address, and then you get your instructions for the call or your template to tweet. So,
and if they want to go to the website, they can go to healtogether.org, correct? Is that right? And then they can sort of back into it.
We built out a new website for just Public School Strong too. So you could go to publicschoolstrong.org. That way, you'll get to see there's a map of all the different Public School Strong teams across the country. It's very inspiring. So you see that there's folks that are out there in rural areas and big cities, and you can either join a group or start your own.
And they can sign up. And so they've got, it's empowering that they could be, as you said, 3 people to start their own group and get the guidance and support from what Heal Together is doing and what Public Strong is doing. So that's great to know. That's really great to know. The other thing that I've been advocating for with regard to this bill specifically, but more broadly, is to contact the Capitol switchboard, and that number is 202-224-3121. And I think the more people that make that call and let their voice be heard, not just in this space of the bill, but in general, the more that, to your point, with them documenting that's going to be out there. But in your space, in your lane, they can go to Public School Strong. Go to that website.
Because it'll connect them, exactly. It'll connect them to their specific senators. So that's what it'll route you to your specific senator, wherever you are in the country.
That's powerful. That's really, because a lot of people are concerned that if they were to call a general number that they won't get through, or that they won't get they won't be able to leave a message or have any impact. But if you can go to Public School
Strong, Public School Strong, yep.
Then you'll be much more able to connect with the senators from your state. And we don't care, and I can tell you, Anna doesn't care if you're in a red or a blue state. We want people from all parts of the country to contact the senators from their state to let them know the danger of this bill and the hugely negative impact it's going to have on education specifically, but just on the everyday lives of so many people. So
that's right.
Anna McArdle, thanks for being with us this morning, and I appreciate you taking some time to chat. And I know that folks that are listening anywhere in the country, hopefully they will get to Public School Strong, and they will get in there and do the work that's necessary to help in this process. But thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. I look forward to building with you all.
That's right.
I do a training every month for folks that join, so we accompany folks.
There you go. The partnership is important. Getting out of your silo and getting involved. So, Anna, thanks for being with us. We'll have you back again. We'll get a progress report, and we'll keep this train moving forward. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There you go, guys. Another person that's in the fight and making sure that we are not just talking, but we're taking action. Anna McArdle with Heal and Public School Strong. Get with her and let the organization know that you want to be a participant in the process. What can I tell you, guys? We're just trying to bring you as many tools as possible so that we can do the work that's got to get done every single day, and then on the tough days as well as on the good days. Thanks for being with us today. As always, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
The far left's anti-ICE riots.
Republicans are so dumb. Because at WCPT, we go to Riot Fest to riot, baby! Riot Fest is back in Douglas Park, September 19th through the 21st. Come see all your favorite bands: Blink-182, Alkaline Trio, Weird Al Yankovic, Weezer, Green Day, and many more. Tickets are still on sale at riotfest.org, but lucky for you, if you join the WCPT 820 Club, WCPT will send you to Riot Fest! Riot Fest! September 19th through the 21st at Douglas Park in Chicago.
Are you tired of talking to yourself? We can get you an audience on the radio. You can produce